Welcome to the 5-2 Diet podcast. All the tips and information you need to lose weight and feel great with intermittent fasting. I'm Kate Harrison from the 52dietbook.com. I've lost 31 pounds, that's 14 kilograms, and it's transformed how I eat and how I feel. I've written 4 books about 5-2, I run one of the largest 5-2 groups on the web, and I still fast every week. It's easy, flexible and free. This podcast will help you 5-2. Hello and welcome to the third 5-2 Diet podcast with me, Kate Harrison. We're getting right down to business in this third episode and we're aiming to get you through your first fast day. Or if you've taken a break from 5-2, this will get you back on track and keep you there. There's lots in today's episode to motivate you, including my 5 top tips for a fast day, my own diary from my first one back in 2012, a summary of why this diet works, and a few extra tips in case you need that extra boost. Okay, so I've worked out that since I started 5-2 in 2012, I've now done around 200 fasts, and they're really easy. I don't dread them, I actually look forward to them. We're coming up to New Year 2015 and I cannot wait to return to my normal routine after my holidays. It's not just because I've lost 31 pounds doing this, it's also because of the energy, alertness and the sense of nurturing my body with light and nutritious food I get every time I fast. That doesn't mean I wasn't worried to begin with though. Extract 3 from my diary will take you through exactly what I did and how I felt. And keep listening because right afterwards I'll be sharing my tips to help you. Kate's 5-2 diary. Fast day 1, August 9th, 2012. I wake up and try to pretend it's a normal day. A normal day where I happen to limit myself to a quarter of what my body needs of calories and energy-wise, and probably about a sixth of what it normally gets. I eat the same breakfast most days like most people. Mine is a mix of Greek yogurt and raspberries. I got to like it when I did low-carb dieting. Unfortunately, that never worked for me long-term, but I stuck with the breakfast because it keeps me from feeling hungry till lunchtime. The trouble is, my usual portion size would take up more than half my calorie requirement for the day. My limit's 500 calories or a bit less ideally. So with the help of my digital kitchen scales, I measure out a doll-sized breakfast. If you've never tried measuring out 25 grams of yogurt, it's a tiny quantity, about 1/5 of a small pot, not very much at all. I use the tiniest bowl in the cupboards and I savour all 4 teaspoons full. I bought a big bottle of sparkling water as well as my main treat for the day. I know as a diet veteran of many different types that staying hydrated is super important to avoid those diet headaches. Looks like the bubbles in the sparkling water are the only bubbles I'll be getting today. As lunchtime approaches, my mood is not best helped by a rejection letter from the Women's Institute, where I'd auditioned to be one of the speakers on their official list. I've given talks to them in the past, but at my audition, the 100-strong panel decided I wasn't up to it, though they do say I had a clear speaking voice and a pleasant personality. It's a good job they can't see my grumpy face right now, as I stand in the kitchen with the letter in one hand, the other one hovering over a packet of hobnobs. But no, I am better than that. And, apparently, I'm pleasant too. I make myself a calorie-free black coffee instead of the hobnobs and try not to think about lunch, or to swear under my breath in my very clear speaking voice. The Department of Weights and Measures. Weighing food is actually a good displacement activity. That and reading the labels on the back of ready meals, because I just didn't fancy cooking today with so few calories to play with. I found a butternut squash dish in Marks and Spencer's with just 140 calories for half a pack. Okay, I think it's meant to be a side dish, but it is quite filling for my lunch, and it also allows me to treat myself to 5 cherry tomatoes, some rocket leaves, and a teaspoonful of balsamic vinegar as a dressing. To keep it simpler, I have exactly the same for dinner. Why mess with a winning formula? Dessert, I'm treating myself, is the same as breakfast, the yogurt and raspberries, and the total 463 calories. Should have had a couple more Rocket Leagues. Time for bed. How's it been? Well, I've got a slight headache, but no other symptoms. In truth, I felt more peckish than truly hungry. Portions are small, but it's been easy because the man of the house is out with mates tonight, so I haven't had to cook for him or resist sharing some wine. Mainly it's been easy though, because I know I can eat exactly what I want tomorrow, unlike any other diet I've tried. I do go to bed early. My tummy is rumbling, but my conscience is clear, and I hope to dream of what I can eat for breakfast in just over 12 hours' time. So looking back on that day, yes, I was hungry, but it was much more of a psychological thing really than a physical thing. You do become a little bit preoccupied with the idea of not eating very much. But once you've kind of accepted that, you then get on with what you're doing. And I do genuinely find now that I'm really alert on a fast day. So let's move on to these top 5 tips. If you listen to podcast 2, you will know that setting goals and also making sure that you can fast, that you're medically able to fast, are the 2 things you need to think about before you get going. So if you haven't listened to that podcast, I'd get on and do that now. There are some people who shouldn't follow this diet, and it's really important that you listen to this bit. Children, teenagers, and pregnant or breastfeeding women should avoid fasting. If you take medication or have a pre-existing medical condition like type 2 diabetes, you should talk to your doctor before making any significant changes. Also, if you've got any history of eating disorders, you should definitely not undertake this without speaking to your doctor or your specialist. But if you have the all clear, here are my top 5 tips for your first fasting day. Fast tip number 1, make a plan. Work out exactly what you're going to eat today and stick to it. So the limit of 500 calories for women and 600 for men works for most of us and is enough to fill you up, but only if you're careful. Hopefully done some shopping in advance, and the kind of things you want to aim for are soups, vegetable dishes, salads, and a little bit of protein, something like egg, chicken, tofu, or fish. There's a quote I love from food author Michael Pollan. It's kind of a mantra for him, and I think it should be for most of us as well. It applies both on fast days and non-fast days, and what he says is eat real food, not too much, mostly plants. It's a really good guideline for this one. So by real food, he's talking about food that you recognise the ingredients on if you go and pick it up in the supermarket or you've got it in your larder. Ideally not too messed around, without too many E numbers or chemicals that you've no idea what they are. Not too much, well, we're definitely going to stick to that on a fast day. And mostly plants. That's a really good philosophy, especially vegetable plants, because they tend to fill you up, offer lots and lots of micronutrients, and are not going to get you feeling hungry again too quickly. I'm going to have a lot more about the food side in next week's podcast. But there's also an issue of when you're going to eat. And one of the things that I found over the periods of fasting is that actually postponing eating till as late as you can is a really good tactic. Now, that may not work if you're on medication where you have to eat something at regular intervals before you take your medication. But a lot of us have found that that whole wisdom about breakfast being the most important meal of the day may not be entirely true for all of us. And in fact, an awful lot of the research about this has been sponsored by breakfast cereal companies. I'm not saying it's not a good choice for some people, but certainly on a fast day, and increasingly a non-fast day as well, a lot of us skip breakfast and leave eating till later, so we get the chance to take in a few more calories at that point. The other little tip around the making a plan idea I have is, especially on that first fast day, think about keeping an emergency snack, especially at bedtime if you're really feeling a bit peckish and that might stop you sleeping. So something like some cherry tomatoes, some olives, they're really good, especially the ones in brine, not preserved in oil. Popcorn that you make yourself, that can be quite good and quite satisfying. It's got that crunch. Or even a really, really ultra healthy cereal bar. I actually like the naked cereal bars, NAKD, which are very, very filling and very dense. Fast day tip number 2. Drinking is the answer, so long as you're drinking non-alcoholic, calorie-free drinks, that is. I find hot and cold drinks are a great distraction from hunger pangs. Often when we think we're hungry, we're either bored or we're thirsty. So drinking can actually provide you with something to do, something to hold, something to take in, and hot drinks, especially in the winter, can be quite a good substitute for food. I really love strong black coffee. If you're not a fan, then try herb teas. You can add milk, but make sure you count the calories. And there's also some research that suggests milk can trigger an insulin response, which was one of the things we're avoiding doing. That's a good thing while we're fasting. I do also have that big bottle of fizzy water to hand a lot, though I have been warned by some dentists that too much isn't great for your teeth, so do that in moderation too. Some of my favourite teas for a fast day are things like mint teas. I love a really minty one, and it gives a nice fresh zing to your mouth. Diet drinks are talked about a lot on our Facebook group, and I think this is really down to personal choice. Some people are convinced that the sweeteners in diet drinks are really deadly, whereas other people guzzle diet drinks all day long. I'm somewhere in the middle. I think it's a case of everything in moderation, and in fact, I must admit, I do have a can of diet lemonade on the table with me as I am recording this podcast. Fast day tip number 3, distract yourself. The thing about fast days, especially at first, is that it's such an unfamiliar feeling to be hungry. Most of us have forgotten what it feels like, so it feels quite unsettling at first. The best way to deal with this is to keep busy. Fast at work or at home if you're going to be busy. Keep yourself busy with lots of chores. A lot of people say that all their housework gets done on a fast day, which is not a bad idea. But if you are having a moment where you think, oh, I really like that hobnob, as I was suggesting in my diary, then take a short walk around the block, phone a friend, or you can save up those boring jobs that keep your hands distracted, like sewing on buttons. The interesting thing about hunger is that if you find something else to do, your brain kind of switches off. It's giving you the signal that you're a bit hungry, that it's expecting some food around now. But if you leave it for long enough, it'll move on to other things. And hunger doesn't usually become unbearable for most of us. It just passes. It kind of comes in cycles. And so long as you keep yourself busy during the peaks of those cycles, you'll probably be fine. Fast day tip number 4, join the club. Now, there weren't any 5-2 support groups online when I started doing it, so I began one on Facebook with just a few friends. And now there are coming up to 36,000 of us all over the world, which does mean that whatever time zone you're in, there's probably someone online at around the same time. There's always someone to cheer you on or to inspire you with a recipe or their story. Got some great before and after pictures. Or if you're wavering a bit, people will definitely be up there to encourage you and make sure you stick with it for the day. So you can join up, it's free. It's facebook.com/groups/the52 diet. Fast day tip number 5. Remember, tomorrow you can eat what you want. As you heard in my diary, this thought kept me going, knowing that unlike every other diet I'd ever tried, with 5-2 I could eat normally the next day, including the treats that I really enjoy. Cheese, nice pastry, a glass of wine. You might worry that this thought will actually make you binge on your non-fasting days, but as I'll go into more detail about in later podcasts, most of us find that doesn't happen. We're savouring our food so much, having had the fast day where we've been quite limited, that we don't overeat. We savour every single bite. And the other interesting thing is that when nothing is forbidden, so you're not forbidden alcohol, you're not forbidden from sugary things, the cravings seem to disappear. It's as though our brain is so focused on what we can't eat that we crave it. But as soon as we said, okay, it's up to you to be responsible, to eat well, and to enjoy treats, but not too many of them, our brain goes, oh, okay, no big deal. Those are my tips. Now let's look at a few of the symptoms that you might get the first few times you fast, particularly that first day. The first one is headache. It's so common when people start a diet that there is actually a diet headache phenomenon, and it's not just 5-2. There's no reason why you shouldn't just take one of your usual headache pills, so long as you haven't got too much of a sensitive stomach. Keep the water levels up. And as I say, if you have got that emergency snack in mind, as I was suggesting in my first fast day tip, then you can always use that if you feel like you really, really need something to eat, or that it might help your headache. Feeling cold. I have to say that this is the most common symptom on a fast day, especially in cold weather. Now, because I started in August, I didn't experience that. But if you're starting this, if it's winter wherever you are, and there are cold days, or it's cold in your office or around the house, you are quite likely to feel a bit chilly, especially in the extremities, the fingers and the toes. So what I would suggest is hot drinks again, and an extra pair of socks, and keeping active. Those are 3 things that help with cold, whether it's a fast day or not. It seems to be a complicated series of effects, so you're not burning up food, therefore you're not generating heat. And also, when your body senses that it's fasting, it focuses on essential functions within the body, and keeping your toes and your fingers warm is not seen as essential. So if you do feel a bit cold, try a nice hot drink, try a hot water bottle on your feet, some gloves, or just take a nice brisk walk. It's possible that you might experience some slight changes in how your digestion works doing this, either on the day or perhaps the next day when you eat. Again, that's pretty normal, and one way round it is just to make sure that on a fast day you are eating plenty of fresh vegetables and a little bit of fibre within that, because that will keep things moving. Feeling lightheaded or faint is really uncommon, but if you are feeling anything that doesn't seem to go away, do talk to your doctor. Better safe than sorry. A final note is exercise on your fast days. This is a question we get a lot. Can I exercise, and also can I knock off the calories that I burn or add them to my limit? So say you've done jogging, you think that burned 200 calories, can you then eat 700 calories on the day instead of the 500? Well, the good news is that there's no evidence to suggest that exercising on a fast day is bad for you, though I would suggest take it nice and gently to begin with, again, so long as there's no underlying medical issue. The bad news is, no, we don't advise eating the 200 calories to make up for it. The fast day, we're not sure whether 25% is the right limit in terms of maximum health benefits, but if the health benefits as well as the weight loss are what interest you, then the fasting function, allowing your body to take a bit of time without having to digest so it can do other things, perform other essential maintenance functions, is what you're aiming at. Motivation and inspiration. Okay, so this is the bit I promised. If you're feeling a bit dubious, feeling a bit hungry, a bit fed up, here is a quick reminder of why I think it's definitely worth persevering with 5-2. To lose weight, you have to consume less energy through food than you're using up in your everyday life. But the brilliant thing about 5-2 is, as we know, it only requires calorie counting on those 2 days a week, and only involves being really strict on those 2 days. What's interesting is that we do find that we begin to eat more healthily without trying on the normal days. It's that extra awareness, that weighing every single gram that I talked about as being a distraction activity in my diary, that seems to serve to remind us what's in food, what's good for us, what's a little bit more of an indulgence. And I normally ask myself the question now, on a normal day, how much do I want this treat? At Christmas or other festivals, I'll be a bit more laid back. But the rest of the time, if I want a treat, really, really want it, I'll have it. But if it's just there on a plate, if people have brought food around at work, or if there's a last biscuit going a little bit mouldy in the biscuit tin, you know what, in the past I might have eaten that just because it was there, and now I'm more than likely to throw it in the bin. Some more motivation, well, the flexibility of 5-2 or 4-3, if you want to do 3 fast days a week, means it's just much more likely that you'll stick to it long term. And of course, weight loss isn't the whole story. 5-2 is also different because of the potential health benefits, which are really motivating. Finally, if you've told a few people you're doing this, you might get a few of them criticising it as a fad. Everyone who succeeds with intermittent fasting says the same thing. It does feel very different from other diets. And I think this is for a variety of reasons. Number one, 5-2 doesn't ban any foods or food types, which, as I explained earlier, means we're less likely to get cravings. Number two, fast days actually re-educate us about our appetite and make us realise that we don't have to be snacking constantly, that the body, as long as it gets enough nutrition overall, and most of us in the Western world are in no danger of under-eating so long as we make sure we get a balanced diet, then the body can cope just fine for a few extra hours without food. There's a really important factor here as well, and that's that commercial interests don't bleed 5-2. There are no supplements, there are no paid-for services, and although a few people have developed branded foods, I think you're much better off just eating real food, as I said earlier. So, unlike some of the other diets where there's lots of money going into marketing it and hyping it, yes, there's a little bit of money on the side. I mean, I make some money from my books, which is fantastic. Thank you if you bought them. But actually, you can do this for free. There's so much information out there, and I think that means that there's a lot more honesty about what's going on, and there's a lot more sharing of information. It feels like a democratic diet. That's it for today. If you are fasting, good luck, and give yourself a pat on the back for doing something fantastic for your health. Next time round, I'm going to be talking about my favourite topic, food. But if you can't wait quite that long, I do have 2 recipe books available. The Ultimate 5-2 Recipe Book and the 5-2 Good Food Kitchen, which is my newest one. Lots of recipes in both of those, my legendary mushroom stroganoff, pizza, tapas, jellies, muffins, spicy soups, and even a low-calorie cocktail or 2. Plus, there are lots of inspiring stories from people who've also achieved amazing improvements to their health and lost weight doing 5-2. I really hope you can join me for the next podcast. Thanks for listening. For more free tips, recipes and information, visit the5-2dietbook.com. Follow me on Twitter at the52diet or download free samples of any of the books online at Amazon. Join in the lifestyle change everyone's talking about.